So before we start today's class, watch these videos once. So what is one thing common about these videos? Simple, zoom ins and zoom outs. So how do we do them, and most importantly, why do we even do that? My name is Tharun. Video editing has changed my life, and it can change yours too. You know, Tharun speaks quality, quantity. So hello everyone, welcome back to class number 8, and in today's class we are going to discuss about zoom ins and zoom outs. Okay, the class would be kind of small, but this is going to be one of the most important classes, just like as I say every single class mein, right? So before we actually talk about how do we zoom into a clip, how do we zoom out to a clip, in the previous video we actually discussed about how do we zoom in and how do we zoom out, but in this video we are going to discuss in detail, right? We'll also be talking about how to slowly zoom in, how to zoom in with ease, right? Like a constant zoom in, right? And then we'll also discuss about we'll have like a brief introduction about ease in and ease outs. That's one extra thing that we'll be learning in this lecture. But before we actually learn about how do we do zoom ins and zoom out, let's actually talk about why do we zoom in and zoom out and different use cases of it. Okay? So first things first, we usually use zoom ins and zoom outs to highlight some specific object in a frame, right? For example, watch this video. When Indiana Jones reaches the pedestal with idol, the camera slowly zooms in onto a golden statue. So basically we zoom in into a frame when we want to highlight some specific object, the importance of the object, right? This is the first use case. Now what is the second one? The second one is that we actually use zoom in and zoom outs to enhance storytelling. For example, again, watch this video. So here we are actually zooming into a character's reaction to convey their emotions in a much better way, right? And the second point of this entire storytelling aspect, to enhance storytelling aspect, is that we also zoom out sometimes in order to tell, in order to give a bigger context in the scene, right? So we zoom into a particular face expression to enhance the storytelling. We also zoom out sometimes to get more elements inside the frame to enhance storytelling. So this is the second use case of zoom ins and zoom outs. So now how else can we use zoom ins and zoom outs, right? First one, to get some detail, get some attention to detail inside the frame to an object. The second thing is to enhance storytelling, right? Maybe we are zooming out to give bigger context, or maybe we are zooming in to, express some face expression in a better way, right? How else can we use zoom ins and zoom outs? Simple, we use zoom ins and zoom outs like transitions also, right? For example, even I use them in my videos. Just watch this video. Oh man, welcome back. I'm zooming in and masking out a hole, right? Which is acting like a transition. Simple. And how else can we use? The most simple use case of zoom in and zoom outs is that, imagine we recorded some video, okay? In which you are here, okay? You're here and here something else is there, right? But this frame looks thoda sa ajeeb unless and until you add some text over here, right? So what do? In the Premiere Pro software, we kind of reset this entire framing, right? How do we do it? We just zoom in and maybe we can just use this thing, right? Maybe we can just use this part like a frame. And that's how do we do it? We just zoom in and adjust the position. Simple. So basically we also use zoom ins and zoom outs to adjust frames, right? This is a very basic thing. All of us already know about it. So now we have exhausted every use case, right? Or do we still have where else do we use zoom ins and zoom outs? Simple. We also use zoom ins and zoom outs as a way of visual effects, right? What visual effects, Tharun? What do you mean by? If you might have not known, just watch this video. So this effect is called dolly zoom, in which what we do is we adjust the focal length of the lens along with moving into the frame or moving out of the frame so that the size of the object, it remains constant. But background, that will have this strange effect. So this is a very famous effect. A lot of movies use it. Okay. So these are a couple of reasons why we use zoom ins and zoom outs. For example, we just use zoom ins and zoom outs to adjust the frames. We use it like visual effects. We use it like transitions. We use it to get a get focus on some certain element inside the frame. We also use it for enhancing the storytelling. For example, zooming into a character's emotion or zooming out to get more context, right? All these things are a couple of examples, or some examples of how do we use zoom ins and zoom outs, right? There are so many other examples. In fact, in today's assignment, you will have to find out 3 or 4 more reasons why we use and where we use zoom ins and zoom outs. Okay? So as a video editor, it is very, very, very important for you to understand at what point of the frame should we actually zoom in. At what are the frames in which you can use zoom ins and zoom outs to actually impact the scene in a much better way, right? So identify these points. If there is some character emotion, if there is someone talking to you at the frame, at any point of frame, and you want to highlight that expression, so just zoom in and give a pause. Just end the music over there, right? So there are so many things. As you keep getting more experience, you'll actually understand where else can you use zoom ins and zoom outs, right? But for now, let's actually get inside the Premiere Pro interface and actually learn how do we use zoom ins and zoom outs, right? So again, coming back to the first, how do we use zoom ins and zoom outs? The first thing that we'll learn is a normal zoom in, zoom out, okay? So imagine this is the footage that you have. What do you have to do? You just have to click here and go to effect controls here, okay? Once you go to effect controls, you'll be able to see position, scale, and all these things. So first thing that we'll do is we'll slowly zoom in while I'm talking, okay? There's no audio here. I just removed the audio because that's not so important. So what I'll actually do, right, is I'll click on scale, right? I came to the first frame, I clicked on scale, I'll turn on that stop motion, the timer wall option, tang. So here we have a first keyframe, right? So now let's go a couple of frames into it, right? At this point of time, maybe I'll just put 120. So what did I exactly do here? I came to the first frame, the size was 100%. I moved on to a couple of frames and now the size is 120. So what happens linearly, in a linear manner, in a constant speed manner, right? In a constant speed, the frame zooms in. Just look at it. You see it? So this is one kind of zoom in. Now, if I extend the time frame of the second point, right? If I extend the duration, what I'll see is I'll have a slow zoom in, very slow zoom in. See? It's a very, very slow zoom in. Just watch these corners. It's a very slow zoom in, right? And sometimes I just don't want to do this, right? Sometimes I just want like a quick zoom in and then I'm talking to the frame, right? How do you do it? You just decrease the time frame, right? For example, you came here, this is there, and now you're talking to the frame. What you can do, you can have a quicker one, more quicker one, maybe here, okay? See, it zoomed in and then I started talking. So there are 3 ways in which you can use the zoom ins in a normal frame, right? For example, again, coming back to the iPad wala screen. So the first thing is you slowly zoom in. Slowly zoom in to the frame, in which from this point to this point, the frame slowly zooms in. This is the first use case. And now the second use case is you zoom in, right? Okay? From this point to this point, you just zoom in immediately and then you keep it you keep the frame constant. So you quick zoom in and let the frame be constant. Now the third use case is, initially it will be the same, right? Initially it will be the same from here to here, manlo. So these are the keyframes which I'm talking about. This is a keyframe. This is also a keyframe. So what I'm trying to do is I'm highlighting the keyframes in which the zoom in and zoom out has been applied, right? So first one is the slow zoom in, and the second one is zoom in, a fast zoom in and then talk. And the third one would be talk and then a fast zoom in, right? You'll be talking. Immediately your expression will change. At that point of time, you zoom in and show that expression. So basically you talk for a while and then when the expression changes, then you zoom into a frame, right? So this is the third use case. So from now on, whenever you're editing a video, just make sure that you have these 3 or 4 use cases in your mind, right? Either you're slowly zooming into the frame or you're just zooming in at important words, right? And then let the entire frame be constant. Or maybe you are keeping the entire frame constant and then zooming it at a different expression. So just make sure that you keep in control ki acha, right, this point of time I'm zooming in, at this point of time I'm not zooming in, right? Sometimes you can also zoom out, right? So just keep these things in your mind. These are going to be very, very useful. People will start appreciating you more and more and more once you actually start visualizing the entire edit, even before you edit it. Right? There are two ways in which you can edit videos. First, you can just sit and frame by frame, you can just start editing from here to here, and then go this way, right? But the better way would be just watch the entire video a couple of times, then plan out, acha, this from here to here I'll be doing this, from here to here I'll be doing this, from here to here I'll be doing this, and then you need to start editing in layers. Okay, first you have done a couple of things, and then you add a couple of things, and then you add a couple of things. So you need to add in layers. So this is a golden thumb rule of editing. You need to plan in frames, right? You need to plan video editing in frames, but then you have to edit in layers. Okay, just remember this sentence, very important sentence. But anyways, so now coming back, as you have already seen, this zoomed into the frame, right? So now what we are going to do is, we are going to do something called like a slow zoom in, smooth zoom in, like with ease in and ease out. So this, whatever zoom in, this zoom out is there, you already learned in the previous video itself, previous class itself. So now let's learn something more advanced. Cool. So if you might have seen in the effect control panel, right, if you go to scale, right, and here's a drop down menu, small drop down menu, right? If I click on it, you'll see something called like something like this, right? So I'll actually explain you what this is. So whenever you try to zoom in and zoom out between two frames, between two keyframes, what happens is, imagine you have 100 here and imagine you have 120 here, right? So what happens is that the speed in which the zoom in happens from this point to this point is constant, right? It constantly zooms in into the frame, right? Here 100 is there, here 100 is there, and then here 120 is there, and the speed at which the zoom in happens is constant, right? And this can be changed. This can be changed to this is linear, right? This can be changed to a non-uniform. This is a uniform zoom in. Now we can have non-uniform zoom in, right? In which, imagine you are zooming in between 100 to 120, right? So initially the zoom in can be slow, and with time it can fasten up, right? This is one more kind of zoom in, right? Where you are starting slow but then ending fast. And how do we do it? Simple. Let's actually see what's the difference. How do both of these seem different? Okay. Coming back to the Premiere Pro screen, just look at this. I'll just delete this. The same thing, I'll just duplicate it. We'll actually see the difference between both of these things. Now let me actually apply a slow zoom in. Okay, it's already applied over here. So this is how it looks like, right? Maybe I'll just reduce this a bit, maybe till here. This is a normal constant uniform zoom in, right? Now what I'll try to do is, here I'll click on this drop down menu. Once I click on this, okay, even before I click on it, so here you'll see that the constant, the velocity is 6.8 per second, right? And this is the constant velocity. Now what I can actually do is, I can increase the velocity, which means I can give it an acceleration, right? So how do you do it? Very simple. You click on the first, okay, first keyframe. You right click, you left click to select, right click to get this menu, right? You do a ease out. What do? You do a ease out. You can also directly play with the graphs itself, but I'll show you a better way to do it. Okay? You ease out, which means when this playhead is moving from this point to inside, so basically it's leaving this point, right? So you ease out from that frame. So right click on that initial keyframe, you click on ease out. See, there's already a curve applied over here. Initially it was a straight line, now it's a curve. Now again you go to the final frame, right? You left click on it to select, right click on it to get this menu down. Now what you do is you do a ease in. Why isn't? Because this current time indicator, it plays and comes into it, right? So something is coming into you. So then you apply this ease out. I'm just explaining in a layman's term, but yeah, then you do ease in, right? So what happens is that you have like a small curve like this. So the meaning of this is the effect, the zoom in starts at zero velocity, right? It increases to the maximum velocity in the center and then it decreases back. Understood? So now if you watch this entire thing, see, just look at the difference. Here it's constant. Here the zoom in starts very slow, it increases and then decreases the speed again. Just watch this. Maximum speed decreased. So kind of a more smooth effect, right? So this is one way how you can zoom in and zoom out in a smoother way. Now I'll show you more like better ones, right? So here what happened is you started with zero velocity and you also stopped at zero velocity. Now let me actually show you how to start at zero velocity but end at the maximum velocity, right? It's very simple. Let me duplicate this frame again, right? So here you have a normal zoom in applied. So what I'll try to do is I'll directly play with the velocity of the curve here, okay? Let me start with zero velocity. I'll just click on this small point right here. If you see, I'll just get it down over here, right? And then I'll increase it over here, right? I'll increase it over here. So just start playing with this curve because it's very interesting. These curves are very interesting. If you like drag it to the left, it will also zoom out here. Like velocity is negative, which means instead of going forward, it's going back. Which means instead of zooming in, it zooms out. Right? Just watch this. Very interesting curves, man. You should see. Just start playing with these curves. It is actually very interesting. See, it started with zero velocity, but then it goes and stops at the maximum velocity. Right? You can actually make it more. For example, just click here. Play with these graphs. Like just start playing with these graphs. See, imagine I got it till here, right? So what happens from here to here, the zoom in has to be applied, but the velocity is in a negative direction, right? Which means instead of zooming in, it zooms out. Zoom out, see, zoom out a bit and then zoom in again, right? So just play with these graphs. It's going to be very, very interesting. In the next tutorial, we'll actually discuss about, this ease ins, ease outs. How can you apply ease in and ease out to, maybe position, right? All of these things. Sometimes you have, in the previous class we discussed about a frame coming inside frame. For example, from top to down, something is coming inside. The text background is coming inside the frame with a constant speed. We can also have like a non-uniform speed over there. We can also make it very smooth to look. We can also make more pleasing to look. And all of these things will be discussed in the next class, right? But for now, your task would be to actually analyze in what frames do you actually have to zoom in what frames do you actually have to zoom out, and also try to play with these graphs here, right? Because it's going to be very interesting. Also, I just shown you when you right click, we have ease in, ease out, all these things, right? Also experiment with linear and this auto bezier, continuous bezier, chobia. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but yeah. Also just experiment on this hold. So just try to play with these curves right now, and in next class we'll talk about these things in more detail, right? Now before I actually end this class, let me actually tell you ki yaar, what are some points which you actually have to remember while zooming and zoom outs, right? Coming on to iPad ka screen. So if this is the video that you're having, don't have zoom ins and zoom outs at whatever point or whenever necessary. Overdoing stuff is also bad thing, right? You actually need to analyze. Imagine this is the timeline of a video. There would be some 1, 2, 3 or like maximum 4, right? Where you actually need a zoom in onto the face, right? At other point of time, this is the immediate zoom in which I'm talking about. Immediate like zek, and I'm talking zak, I'm talking, right? And at other points of time, what you have to do is you have to slowly zoom in whenever you want to get some people inside the frame, and again you have to slowly zoom in, right? And you can either cut out to a normal 100%. For example, you are zooming in from 100 to 120 मान लो. So you can either cut it off to 120. So you can either cut it off to 120 to 100 directly, right? Next frame में. But you can also, there's also one more way where you can slowly zoom out again. But this zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out would look kind of weird. So one best suggested way is that instead of just zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out, what you do is you watch the entire video once, you select 1, 2, 3, something like that, where you have to do a fast zoom in, fast zoom in, fast zoom in, fast zoom in. At other points of time, just cut it off to 100. For example, imagine from here you did 100 to 120 scale, right? You again cut it out to 100 in the next frame, and then you can slowly zoom in, right? Again cut it off to 100, maybe till 120, 110, whatever you want, and then cut it off to 100, right? So that's how you do. You slowly zoom into the frame, right? Cut it off to 100. Again, bigger picture, right? And then have an immediate zoom in, right? You can also do zoom ins and zoom outs in two different ways. You can either cut the frame, right? You can either cut the frame like this. From here to here, you can have a scale of 100. Here to here, you can have a scale of 120. Instead of this, a better way would be just apply this scale wala effect, right? You increase, you add 2 keyframes, 100 to 120. So all these things, just make sure you don't overdo all of these things. Zoom ins and zoom outs, if done properly, can take your video edit to the next level. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next class. The next class is also going to be very, very interesting, because next class we are going to discuss something professional, right? All these things which whatever we discussed till now, these are very basic stuff. From next class is the thing which will be very interesting and which will actually make you a pro video editor. Okay? I'll see you very soon. Bye bye. Thank you so much for watching.